What is up, guys? DPX here. Welcome to another movie review. And today, I figured to watch Venom. I heard it's been critically panned. I heard it's gotten bad reviews. I've heard Lady Gaga fans have been pushing people to see A Star is Born instead of Venom, to make it seem like Venom is this awful, awful movie. But I decided to see it anyways, and though I don't think it's awful, it's certainly not the best thing ever. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, I'm not gonna call this movie awful. I'm not gonna say it's just a venomous movie to watch, but it's not perfect. Far from it, actually. It's not the best, but I did kind of enjoy it. I found it interesting. It was not boring. It was confusing, but it wasn't boring. I really do like the way how Tom Hardy was. I was a bit skeptical. Like I knew he'd do a good job, but I was a bit skeptical of him as Venom because uh, he seems, I don't know, it just didn't quite seem all that right, but he is the right fit for Venom, and, or Eddie Brock, and his performance is actually good. It may seem in the trailers that he always looks paranoid and everything. That's because Eddie Brock is paranoid. And if you're saying he's not paranoid, look at Spider-Man 3. Yeah, that was Spider-Man 3, asshole. Just kidding. You're cool. Um, but and yeah, this movie did do Venom better than Spider-Man 3, but that's Spider-Man 3. That's like saying that's like saying fucking like Mega Man 11 did Mega Man better than Mega Man 64. Of course it did. It's Mega Man 64. Mega Man Legends, really. Uh, anyways, it's... I'm not gonna call it that great of a movie, but it's definitely okay. I'd say it's just close to being good, or to being somewhat decent. It just falls short, though. Um, it's very disorienting. The movie was all over the place, and like even with some of the editing, with the transitions, I feel were a bit disorienting. What I mean by that is like confusing. Like one second you're at one thing, and then you're at some other subplot that makes no that's like kind of confusing. I don't want to get into detail of what happens in the movie. In case you want to see it. But I mean, it's a little bit much to handle at once, and I do feel that's gonna hurt the movie in the long run. But I mean, there's not. Believe me when I say this, there's also not a whole lot to say about the movie. I mean, so what happens is like Eddie Brock works for this company and something. He gets fired, and then not only does he lose his job, he loses his wife or his fiance, really, and then he loses his apartment. He loses basically everything, and then he has to. Then like he goes to some place, some laboratory, where there's some symbiote infected woman trapped inside some place. He acts like a complete idiot and breaks that person out, and he gets symbiote infected. And then Venom, which is what the symbiote's name is, basically fucks with him. And Yeah, I mean, some of the parts of the movie were a bit disturbing. Not like sexually or anything like that, but like there is a part in the movie where he just went to some restaurant and basically just fucked around with people. Or Venom, the symbiote, really just fucked around with people. There's this scene in the movie, this really disturbing scene in the movie where he just throws up. I did not like that part one bit. There are also some parts of the movie where it tries to be funny, and you know what? For a movie like this, based on the trailers even, you might not even expect it to try to be funny. But believe it or not, sometimes it works, but other times it doesn't. I feel like sometimes when it doesn't work, it very well could have worked if it was just in a different moment. Yet the context of it was still there. I mean, there's this one scene where, like, an apartment, like next to him, next to his apartment room, is is playing really loud music, and Eddie Brock with Venom goes over to tell him to quiet down, and like the person goes like no, and then the symbiote just pops out of Eddie Brock's face, and the person's like, all right, yeah, sure, which that was pretty funny, but I mean that was really the only time humor worked for me. I mean, all the other ones, they just fell short and felt unneeded, to be honest. Now, here's something I want to talk about, and that is the villain. Now, the villain, the thing about it now, I didn't even realize that until just now. The villain seems more like anti-Venom. Okay. Uh, so we'll call him anti-Venom. I mean, I were to guess that was anti-Venom. When they were showing anti-Venom, I wasn't, I couldn't quite think of anti-Venom, so I couldn't quite think of the name of the Venom. But you see, uh, in the climax scene, they were fighting. Of course, they were like they were fighting at nighttime when it was dark, and you couldn't quite tell the difference between the two. I mean, I kind of was able to figure it out because you know how movies are. The villain is winning, but then the hero is winning. It's almost somewhat you can figure out the pattern. I feel like that this it could have been better if you were able to figure out like what you know who was who, what was going on. I feel like that one was also disorienting and confusing, and yeah. And then there is something that you always have to talk about with any movie that has action, and actually, really any movie in general. Half of it, the other half is any movie that has action. That, of course, being the action and the editing, or CG. The CG, I feel, the CG on like the symbiote, uh, it looked okay. I mean, you can definitely see how it's CG, especially in this screenshot right here. The quality of this photo, though, just doesn't look real great. I mean, it's not the worst CG, but the CG is definitely clearly CG. I mean, I watch a lot of movies that have had CG. It's almost just like they're not even CG. It's like they actually exist there. But this is noticeably CG. The next thing is the action, which I've already kind of actually talked about. When I brought up action along with CG, I didn't quite realize I had already talked about it, but I mean, I already said that I was going to talk about it, but so like I can't really say anything. I can't really skip it. But long story short, there's actually more to the action than what I said. I mean, there's the fact that like other times Venom, well now refer to him as because that's his name, what was kept kind of fighting the same people. Like they had the same. Like they were after him because he stole the symbiote. Since Eddie Brock stole the symbiote, and it was all just them eating their heads off and stuff. And yeah, it was not. The action could have been better, but like in the end, I feel like this movie was interesting. It wasn't like boring. Like I was afraid I was gonna be bored out of my mind when I was watching this. When I was going into this movie. Because, like, I did come into the movie with tempered expectations. But, you see, with those tempered expectations, I was expecting to be watching a boring, uninteresting movie. And it was not boring, and it was kind of interesting. Albeit, it is heavily, heavily flawed. I mean, but it'll keep your attention to the movie. I was actually shocked at how well my attention was at the movie. If that's even how people talk. Well, that'll be it for this video. Oh, no, I didn't even pull out the score. Well, Venom gets a score of 6 out of 10. It was almost there, but the symbiote inside it told it no. I just wanted to say some really corny joke. Corny journalist quote. That's my quote. Almost there, but the symbiote inside it told it no. That's not to say I don't think it was that great. I don't think it was that bad either, though. I mean, it definitely was not great. Maybe it's not even good, but, like, I'm not gonna rate it too low because it did keep my attention to the big screen. And, with such a troubled development cycle for the movie, I'm actually surprised that it's not worse than I thought it was going to be. I'm surprised that it's better than I had expected. But yeah, I'm not in any way saying it's a good movie. If you like Venom, maybe you should see it, but there are definitely better ways to appreciate the character. Well, that'll be it for this video. Be sure to like this video, comment, subscribe. Did you see Venom? Do you like the movie? Let me know in the comments below, and tell me about it. Tell me what you liked and what you didn't like about it, if you liked it at all. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.